Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm in the studio. You know what to do. Get involved in the chat and the comments. We're going to be talking about all the latest Manchester United news because there's no World Cup games today. Just found out. I didn't realise. So what are we going to do? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to watch United because United are playing a friendly in Cadiz later on today. We'll be here with the watch-along for that. You'll have myself, Joe Smith, and Ronaldo Brown for that, so make sure you check that out. But before all that, let's get into the latest Manchester United news. There's a few transfer rumours doing the rounds. So there's one about Joao Felix. There's also a little bit of, it's more a sort of opinion stuff, really, around Gonzalo Ramos, the kid who scored a hat-trick last night in the World Cup. Came in, replaced Cristiano Ronaldo, and banged in a hat-trick. I mean, fair play to the boy. So we'll be getting into all that. But first of all, I want to talk to you about this rumour that's doing the rounds, or report that's doing the rounds, I think I saw it in the Express, about Denzel Dumfries and Diogo Dalot and a potential swap deal. It says here in the Express that Manchester United offer Diogo Dalot in swap deal as Erik ten Hag sets sights on January transfer. Then it goes on to say that United have reportedly offered a fee of 26 million quid plus Diogo Dalot as they look to land Inter Milan right-back Denzel Dumfries. The Dutch international was linked with a move to Old Trafford back in the summer. Now, this has come from Planeta Azzurro, and it's been quoted in the Express. Now, I think this story is slightly flawed, to say the least. I think if you look at Diogo Dalot, look at the season he's having at Old Trafford at Manchester United, he's been a mainstay for Erik ten Hag. He's played very well. I think the only game he's missed is when he's suspended in the league anyway. He's having a good World Cup, played very well last night in that emphatic win for Portugal against Switzerland, a 6-1 win. He played his part, he got an assist as well, and did very well. So, yes, Denzel Dumfries looks like a decent player, and he's another one who's had a pretty good World Cup. I saw him against, I want to say the USA, I think it was, for Holland. He played very well, but there's always that worry as well. You don't just buy players based on what they've done in the World Cup. We'll get to that a bit more later on, because players can have a great World Cup against players who are championship standard. That happens in the World Cup. You face teams that, you know, we've seen it, especially in the group stages, where you can get a couple of goals or you can get a good performance against players who, you know, you have players in the World Cup who are playing in League One in some cases, or we've seen players in the World Cup who haven't even got a club. I mean, it's very rare, but it happens, so you can't use that as a barometer. But Denzel Dumfries obviously been doing well for Inter Milan, as the report said. He was linked with a move to Old Trafford in the summer. So this isn't just based on his performances for Holland. You wouldn't think so anyway. However, I think if you get rid of Dalot and bring in Dumfries, you haven't improved. You haven't sort of solved any problems. The problem you've got in a minute is you've only got one right-back who Erik ten Hag seems to trust. Now, that could change. Maybe Aaron Wan-Bissaka regains his mojo. Maybe Brandon Williams or someone like that, you know, sort of convinces Erik ten Hag he's the answer. Maybe it's Ethan Laird further down the line. But the minute it's only Diogo Dalot, when he's not playing, it seems like was it Tyrone Malacia or something? He moved over there to cover for him when he was suspended. So there is obviously a bit of an issue there. We need more players there. We need someone else who can maybe rotate or be backup or even fight for a first team place alongside Diogo Dalot for that right back spot. Now, if you get rid of Dalot and bring in Dumfries, you haven't cured any of those problems because you've just got one right back you can rely on. That isn't the answer for me. Get involved in the comments. Get involved in the chat. I see already someone hussy saying Jude is joining Scousers 100%. I'll get into that in a minute because Jude Bellingham, we have been covering the Jude Bellingham sort of rumours, stories, reports, however you want to term it. This morning, I think it was this morning, was it? Christian Falk tweeted something. Let me just find it. Which kind of indicates that, you know, well, it says it. I'll read it out here. It says, Christian Falk's done a true. Liverpool are favourites to sign Jude Bellingham. I've just got a Sky Sports notification there. I thought it might be something interesting, but it's Eden Hazard retiring from international football. Christian Falk says, true. Liverpool are favourites to sign Jude Bellingham from Borussia Dortmund next summer. Talks are more advanced than with Real Madrid. The family of Bellingham prefers the transfer to Liverpool. So, Liverpool in pole position to get Jude Bellingham. It did feel like United were sort of being edged out on that move, being left by the wayside, because we did try and sign him, obviously, when he was at Birmingham. Pulled out all the stops. He met Fergie, he met Eric, he met Brian Robson, he went down to Carrington. We didn't get him. He went to Dortmund, obviously. You think, okay, well, that might maybe make sense. He was, 16, 17 at the time. Maybe he's looking at going, I'm going to get first-team football at Dortmund. I'm not just going to be on the bench. And maybe at United he would have either been on the bench or even possibly got loaned out again. However, goes to Dortmund, does really well. Now he's one of the most coveted players in the world. There was talk of him being about 129 million quid. I don't know how accurate that is. Could Liverpool afford him? Possibly. They're getting new owners, aren't they? If they get new owners and the owners want to make a marquee signing, then Jude Bellingham for 120 million quid, that'd be your answer, wouldn't it? That'd certainly get the fans believing in what you're trying to do. The same could be said for Manchester United. United could do that. New owners could come in. They could go, look, let's get the signing that's going to move this club forward. And Jude Bellingham feels like he would be that. Get involved in the chat in the comments. I just said earlier about you can't judge players off the World Cup. And, players can have a decent game in the World Cup, and that doesn't mean they're necessarily world class. Jude Bellingham's been doing very well at Dortmund. He's been doing very well in the Champions League for Dortmund as well. That's more of a sort of a barometer for how talented this kid is. Obviously, at 19 years old as well, you'd expect him to have a few more levels to go up to. If he goes to the Scousers, which he's looking like, how disappointed are you about that? Santa Not says, morning, Mr. Ketchup on Nando's. I don't disapprove, by the way. Yep, that was Adam McCullough taking a photo of me using ketchup on my Nando's. Listen, each to their own. Diversity, yeah, is the spice of life. Rowan Jan says, morning all. Danny Ian says, morning Jay. Sorry, Rowan Jane, not Rowan Jan. Abhinav Verman says, what's the weather like in Manchester? It's brass. It's absolutely Baltic, as producer Callum would say. Bellingham, what do you reckon? Do you care? Are you worried? Are you bothered? Ed says, Jude's never coming to United. Stop it, Moy. Winky emoji. Listen, it could happen. I don't think it will. I thought he might end up going to Madrid. City might end up coming in for him because they always like to stick the nose in, don't they, when there's a big transfer going on. Maybe even Chelsea could. Chelsea might go, look, Todd Burley's playing Championship manager in a minute, innit? He might go, hang on a minute, who's this Jude Bellingham kid? Yeah, let's get him. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't think he's coming to United. And after Christian Falk said that, Christian Falk's not infallible. Christian Falk said not true about Ralph Rangnick going to United. But he's very reliable, despite that one mistake. He is a reliable guy. He knows his German football. And we've had him on the channel on the Tier 1 Transfer podcast. He did his interview with us via the Bayern Munich training ground. He was literally had the Bayern Munich players behind him. So he's not exactly, out of the loop when it comes to German football. I know this is Dortmund, not Bayern, but you get my meaning. So if he's saying that, I think it's edging towards that. One sort of twist in the tail could be whether Liverpool have Champions League football, because it's not a dead cert. You'd expect them to. I still think they're going to get their act together and probably, get into that top four. But it's not nailed on. What are they at the minute? 9th? I can't remember. They're struggling. So perhaps that could have an effect if he looks at it and goes, right, they're not even going to get Champions League football next season. And Manchester United are. I don't know. Abhinav Verma says we should sign Enzo or Frenkie de Jong. King Dino says, I think we'll get Frenkie in the summer. Yep. Wouldn't surprise me. Ed says, big up Eccles, greatest export, J Moy, followed by Danny Simpson. That bloke from Hollyoaks. And it's the fit bird that used to be on Corrie. I don't think you can say that anymore. It's not very PC, is it? Thanks for the export compliment, though. Should we move on? Shall we talk about what's next on the agenda, producer Alex Bagley? Ramos. Thank you, my friend. I've already forgotten. Goncalo Ramos. This is it. Gonzalo or Goncalo? How do you say it? Goncalo, right? Let me know if I'm wrong in the chat, because you know me in pronunciation. We don't go together very well. We go together like John Terry and diversity. I watched this game last night, and he was fantastic. His first goal in particular, I mean, they were all good goals, but the first one in particular, I thought, wow, that sort of came out almost out of nowhere. He was in the box. I think he take one touch and then just levered it into the roof of the net, and also the little dink as well. So there's a few good goals there. Portugal absolutely flying. The Swiss team, who their level's probably the last 16 in it, to be honest with you. They've got one or two decent players, but you wouldn't expect the Swiss team to be in the mix for challenging for the World Cup. So it's not a massive surprise that Portugal won, but the nature of that win, you can only beat what's in front of you, and they beat it they beat Switzerland so convincingly that you have to give them credit. And coming into that game, replacing Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest players of all time, arguably the greatest Portuguese player of all time. I think there's only maybe Eusebio can be in that conversation with him. There's got to be a lot of pressure on you, and yet he couldn't have done any better. A hat trick, sort of, making it a comfortable win for Portugal, absolutely smashing it. Well taken goals as well. So yeah, it was a joy to watch that last night. I thought really entertaining game. Obviously with Delo and Bruno there, we've got a dog in a fight. I wanted Portugal to win. I want them to do well. Some people go, get them home early and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not so sure about that. I don't know if that works. I think sometimes if players have a good tournament, a good World Cup or a good Euros, not all the time. We've seen it with the likes of Shaw and Maguire last time, but it can help them. It can bring them, they can come back to United with the tails up. And just, it's difficult to watch players that you love and get behind and not want them to do well. So, yep, I'm pleased to see... I'm pleased to see Portugal doing well. Looking at Ramos's numbers there for Benfica, he's only young, this kid. He's 21 years old. And his numbers are 9 goals in the Portuguese league in 11 games, and then 14 goals in 21 games in all competitions. As yet, there's not really anything concrete saying that Manchester United are in for him. I just thought I'd mention him because he's the flavour of the month and everyone's talking about him. If you go on socials, everyone's talking about him. We did a little poll just to say, because you'd think if United actually went for him, he'd be gettable. But again, there's that thing of, do you want to buy someone just based on the World Cup? We did a little poll. Almost 2,000 people voted. Who should we get? Or if you had a choice, who you taking at United, Felix or Ramos? Ramos came second, or coming second with 44.8%. Joao Felix, 55.2%. Should we talk about Joao Felix? Because he plays a bit of a different role, doesn't he, for Portugal? He's not your out-and-out striker. He's not that kind of player. Plays a little bit deeper, a bit more of an orchestrator. I thought he did well last night. Thought that, it was the others obviously getting amongst the goals and stuff, but he played well. And he's been linked with United. And there's been this quote, I think, from... is it the Atletico CEO who's come out with this statement, or come out with a quote about the fact that he's for sale, basically saying that he could be up for sale. I think the figures being touted around for Felix have been around the £85 million mark, which is a lot of money, but Atletico paid a lot of money for him. And they probably overpaid for him, to be honest with you, because he had that sort of purple patch, didn't he, at Benfica, where he was absolutely banging him in that season. I think it was 15 goals in the Portuguese league in 26 games, 20 in all comps. So he hit the magical 20-goal mark. And this had been, this was 3 or 4 years ago, when he was about, 19, 20. So you can understand why he was so coveted. Went to Atletico Madrid for around 130 million quid. So just... massive amount of, massive transfer fee. Probably hasn't quite lived up to that fee, if we're being brutally honest. And that's not his fault that they overpaid for him. And he's done okay. He was shown, we can see why they bought him. If you ever watch him, he's obviously a very talented kid. But he doesn't put those kind of numbers up where you go, that's worth over 100 million. If you're spending 100 million quid on a player, especially a player who's got 20 goals in the season before he joins you, you'd expect a similar-ish output. And we haven't really got that. You haven't really got that at Atletico. If you look at his goal tallies in particular, I know he's not just an out-and-out goal scorer, but, 9 in his first season there in all comps, 10 in his second, 10 in his third, and he's got 4 so far this season. So he's not that guy. Atletico willing to take a little bit of a hit with him. Would you have him at United? Most you say you would. I'd have him at United. He's not that type of player who's similar to Marcus or Anthony Martial in terms of leading the line, but he does offer you something different. Get involved in the chat and the comments. I want to know what all you guys think as well. Let me see what's being said. Rowan Jane says, just have a feeling Pep will bring Felix to Man City and make him heir of Kevin De Bruyne. Ed says, Gonzalo Ramos is the first player to score a hat-trick on his first World Cup start since Klose. Miroslav Klose loved a load of goals, didn't he, in the World Cup, him. Abhinav Verma says, Howson said we should be in for him. I think that's a reference to Gonzalo Ramos. Of course, Howson says that. Howson, I've just been found out of baggers that Howson's done a scout report on him already. Howson scouted every player in the world, so I'm not surprised that he's done one on him. Abhinav Verma says, Jay saying sorry if I butchered your name is a great drinking game. It is if you want to get hammered. Yeah. I don't think... Red Devil says, I don't think he's fast enough. Santa Notch says, I'd have him at United, but not on insane wages yet. Going back to Felix. I think he's one of those in it with Joao Felix. He's a talented kid. It's a lot of money, 85 million quid, but... I don't know. It's one of them. You're paying that or thereabouts, aren't you, for players nowadays who are young and are talented. attackers anyway. The only exception slightly is Cody Gakpo. I think Cody Gakpo, the sort of the latest rumours for him were that you could get him for around 50 million quid, which is almost a bargain, really, in this day and age for an attacker who's got a lot of goals. 50 million quid. I mean, I never thought I'd say 50 million quid is a bargain, but it probably is. Mehdi Rahman says, shout out yesterday's Uncensored. Great watch as always. Yep, I mean, if you go and have a look at that, it's on the channel, up on the channel. Macaulay and Joe having a chat about Bellingham amongst other things as well. A little bit disappointing. It looks like Jude Bellingham could be heading to Liverpool, but I don't know. We've got a decent midfield. I think we could still do with someone, and if we get someone like a Frenkie de Jong, Casemiro, Frenkie de Jong, and Bruno or Eriksen or whatever, that's a pretty solid midfield. The good thing about Bellingham, obviously, he's very young. He's going to progress, but such is life. On the Felix thing, on the Ramos thing, let us know. Get involved in the comments. Who would you prefer if you had the choice? Seafence says, Felix is a weird one. I reckon he's brilliant, but I'm not sure he's right for us. Craig Plunkett says, Felix needs to be in a possession-based team. Atleti was probably the worst team he could have went to for his career. Things at Atletico Madrid, I don't know, they just feel like they're going a little bit, not sour, but stagnated somewhat. Because obviously with Simeone, they've had this sort of great run with him. He's won La Liga twice, I think. He won the Europa as well, got to a couple of Champions League finals. And you always have the impression with Atletico Madrid, they're kind of punching above the weight at times, especially when they win the league or going up against the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid, of course. But they do spend money, and they have spent money. And at the minute, what are they, fourth in the Liga? Miles away from the top two. I think they're about 13 points or something off the top. Now, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with Atletico Madrid not winning the league against Real Madrid and Barcelona, because they're the two teams you expect to be challenging for it. But I just wonder whether, they have made a couple of decisions that aren't great. And obviously, in the Champions League, there was a time when, like I said, they were getting to finals and all that other stuff. But now they just seem to be those guys. I mean, they knocked us out last year. They're just all about time wasting and rounding up the ref and all that other stuff. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on football-wise there in the Champions League when I've watched them. Don't get me wrong, I know in the league, and like I said, it wasn't that long ago they won it. So they've obviously done well there. But yeah, I just wonder whether things are going a little bit, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like there's that positivity that there was at Atletico Madrid a couple of years ago. Let us know what you think anyway. Paul Lucas says, Felix needs to get out of Simeone prison. I hope we get him in January. Jonas Loic says, Jude Bellingham will go at Real Madrid. Real Madrid have got midfielders, haven't they? Do you think they need him? Do you think they need Jude Bellingham? Because I've been saying this. I'm not going to disagree with you. I've been saying about Jude Bellingham going at Real Madrid for a little while. But then you look at the midfielders they've got. I mean, Real Madrid in their squad, they have got a host of midfield. They've got so many midfielders that they could afford to let Casemiro go, couldn't they? Do you know what I mean? Which was Casemiro, who's one of the greatest midfielders on the planet. They let him go, and it's like it's not the end of the world for them. I'm just looking at some of the sort of the players they've got there. You got Camavinga, for example. You got Tchouaméni. I mean, these are young midfielders. I know, like, Modric is getting on a bit, but they've got young midfielders there. Do they really need Bellingham? I think they always go in for big players, don't they? And he's certainly that. But I'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I'd rather he went to Real Madrid, to be honest with you, than went to the Scousers. The Big Lebrowski says Madrid have like 900 midfielders on the books. Yeah, they do have a lot of midfielders, so you have to wonder whether that's a priority. You wonder whether they're going to go in for the likes of Mbappe again in the summer. Obviously, they didn't get him last summer. Could that happen? I just want to talk to you as well about an event we've got coming up. We've got an event in Dublin coming up. I've just put a link in the chat there. We're going to be in Dublin. Myself, Stephen Howson, Adam McCullough, Joe Smith. They can see it on the screen behind me. And that man, let me get this right, Brian McClare. Yeah, the first man post George Best to score 30 goals for Manchester United in a season. Won about 4 Premier League titles, scored over 100 goals, scored in cup finals, all that jazz. Won the 1991 Cup Winners' Cup, which is the greatest achievement in the history of association football. He's going to be with us at a live event in Dublin. The link in the chat. Get involved. Come down. Yeah, the 30th of December. We want to see your support. It's the first ever live event we've done as Stretford Paddock. We appreciate all the support you guys give us. Just quickly before I wrap up, Sad Sack says, we need 2 strikers, 2 nines. Som Azri says, Bellingham would kill it at Madrid. Santa Not says, Choque. Yep, that's right. Rowan Jane says, Jay, who do you think will have the better future? Kobe Manu, Zidane Iqbal, Isaac Hansen, Harron. I think they've all got bright futures. I think the one closest to the first team at the minute, and this isn't exactly a revelation, is Zidane. We've seen him, featuring pre-season. I like the kid. I like all those players, and I think they've all got potentially a great future. But I think the first one we'll see in and around the first team should be Zidane Iqbal. I think he could be the real deal. I do. I think he's just got to be managed right. Give him the game time that he needs. Don't rush it, but don't hold him back. And we could see a real player there. But it's hard not to get excited about any of those players because they're all smashing it. But yeah, I think hopefully we'll see Zidane very, very soon. Ian Hooper says, morning Jay, I think we need a new right back first as well as Delo. I like Frimpong. He can play left back as well. Yeah, we've been linked with Frimpong. He's another Dutch lad, isn't it? Apparently 24 million quid could get you Frimpong. Maybe. We'll keep you posted. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Don't forget, if you've not done already, to hit like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back later on. We've got an interview with Matt Dickinson from The Times coming up with Stephen Housen over in Qatar. That'll be up this afternoon. And then later on this evening, we'll have the game in Cadiz, Manchester United's friendly in Spain. We'll have that there for you. So make sure you are subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out. Don't forget as well, if you've not done already, to go and check out the link in the chat for the event in Dublin. I've been Jay Moy. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.